All right, you guys, what's up? Welcome back to our weekly live feed. As you're logging on, if you'd like to come work with me, Sean's Couture Cuties is where you got to go. Welcome, welcome. If you are logging on Instagram, we are live on YouTube and Facebook, and the experience will be a lot better on YouTube and Facebook because you will have pictures and videos and all that stuff. On Instagram, you don't get any of that. So if you're on Instagram and you don't know how to get to our YouTube channel, just go into my bio, click the link tree, click over to our YouTube channel from there, and that'll get you there. What's up, guys? What's up? And those of you that are over on YouTube and Facebook right now, welcome. Feel free to say hello. My voice is basically back. It might crack a little bit, but it's basically back from the weekend. Yes, we're ready to go with this recap. I always wait a few minutes for everybody to get logged on. I'll wait about 3 minutes or so for everybody to get in and get settled and the notifications to pop up and all that stuff. While we're doing that, our Cutie Boutique is right here, the QR code in the corner. So if you want to come work with me for your suit, your posing, your hair and makeup, if you need activewear, loungewear, we got it all right there. Makeup, everything. If you guys were paying attention to the weekend coverage, you know, Yulia was there on stage in the Bikini Olympia. She is one of our Pro Performer Promise winners. And for those of you that don't know what that is, Pro Performer Promise is when you wear one of our suits and you win your IFBB Pro card, you get sponsored for the remainder of your career. So Yulia was wearing one of our suits when she won her IFBB Pro card, so she won her sponsorship with us, and she also was wearing one of our suits when she qualified for the Olympia. So, what's up? What's up? Welcome. Yes, say hello when you log on. I love seeing everybody say hello. We got a lot of people on tonight. I know this is very much anticipated wrap up. So, for those of you that didn't watch it, Jordan and I did do our podcast, Behind the Bikini podcast, at the Olympia on Sunday. That is up live, so you can go watch that. The audio is pretty crappy, but it's good enough to be able to listen to it. Sorry, there was just a lot of crowd noise, and I tried to remove as much of it as I could, and it just got a little distorted in some places, but I think it's pretty good. We'll do it in a private area next time. We wanted to be like in it with everything, you know, with the whole activity, and that was probably not the best move. But hey, you know, we'll figure this out as we go, right? That was not a recap. So some people thought that was a recap podcast. It was not. It was just us kind of highlighting the weekend itself, because we talked about not just bikini, but we talked about all the other divisions as well, some of the highlights, some of the lowlights, all of those kinds of things. And we were both running on like zero sleep. So there were some good discussions. There were some good discussions to be had. So yeah, I thought it was still pretty good. You know, whenever we do these podcasts, I still listen to them myself too, to make sure that they come off well and that we have it edited properly. I'm the one that does all the editing. So I still pay attention to all of that and make sure that we did okay. And I've been able to watch it. So if I can listen to it, I think you guys can listen to it. So So tonight what we're going to do is we're going to recap the Bikini Olympia. We're going to go through the top 10 for bikini. When we talked about the preview and things like that, now, first of all, those of you that didn't see my stories, I did do Spotify during prejudging at Bikini Olympia, and it did not upload and save. The way the Spotify works, it's a podcaster app, and so it has to process everything with data signal or Wi-Fi or whatever, and we had zero signal in there, none. So once prejudging was over with, I went to go try to publish it, and it just spun and spun and spun. Kelby can attest. She was sitting next to me. I was doing the Spotify channel the entire time, but y'all just didn't get to hear it. So it is what it is. But anyway, so we're going to go through the top 10. I do have some video. I'm going to show you guys of some of the girls. We had a few surprises. So, you know, obviously we didn't know who was going to be in the top 10 when they're doing their individuals. So some of the individuals I didn't get because I didn't predict them in my top 10 or my top 15 or anything like that. So the ones that I did predict, which was most of them, I have their routines from when they're on stage. So I'm going to play those and we can talk about it a little bit as you guys watch the routines. If you have questions, feel free to type them into the comments. That's what this is for. You know, I want this to be interactive. I don't want this to be just me talking at you as usual. So if you guys are on here live, this is your opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. You know, at the end of the day, these are the top athletes in our sport, the top, the very top. So whenever we are critiquing these girls, it is minutia, like teeny, teeny, tiny little details. You could literally take any of these girls in the top 10 and put them up into the top 5, the top 3 or whatever, and they would fit. And they would be perfectly, nobody would question it. You know what I mean? So when we go through and we critique this stuff, we are literally talking about teeny, teeny, tiny little details, right? Teeny, teeny, tiny little details. And these little teeny, tiny details are what separate people from the top 10 to, you know, the top 15 to the top 20, you know, that kind of thing. So we could be here all day and we could go through every single girl, but we're not going to do that. We're going to go through the top 10 because the top 10 are the ones that go on and make it to finals. It's always the goal when they get to the Olympia stage, they want to actually make it into the finals. So those are the girls we're gonna talk about tonight. So to start out with that, our 10th place finisher, and we're gonna go through photos too. Let me pull up. This is photos, I think. Let me make sure I got the right tab up. That's comparisons. Okay. So we're going to start with comparison, or I'm sorry, we're going to start with the top 10, and then we'll go through some comparison shots and things like that too. So 10th place was Jordan, and I do have video of her. So hang on, I think, let me just move this a little bit. Let me put Jordan in here right now. There we go. Okay, so I did get video of her routine because I assumed she would probably be towards the top. She was 11th place last year. And she's wanted to get into that top 10 placing. She has not made it until this year. She did make it in at 10th place. So I actually thought that her posing was a bit better than what she typically does. It was a little bit smoother. I think she could still smooth it out. As you can see her kind of moving into her back pose. She's a little bit choppy in that movement. I think if we just kind of, if she slowed it down just a little bit, that'd be even better here. But this was probably the tightest Jordan that I have ever seen on stage. Like I've never seen her this tight before. Almost a little bit too much. Now, I understand why she did this. I understand why she went to this level of conditioning because that tends to be her feedback. Her feedback tends to be she needs to be a little bit tighter, needs to be a little bit tighter, that kind of thing. I feel like she went just a hair too far with the conditioning. But it was enough. And it was good. It was good enough for her to get into that top 10. And where I see like the hair too much, you can actually see it here in this particular shot on this video. You can see it right here in her hip. And then when she's in her back pose on her hamstring tie-in. So just a touch too tight here. But with that said, like I said, I understand why she went this far because that's always her critique, that she's not conditioned enough. So I get why she did that. So I think that this was probably a calculated risk and it paid off because she was able to get into that top 10, which I know she's always wanted to do and has been fighting for that. So let's take a look at her photos really quickly here. Let's see. Let's pull up a front shot. Do a front shot and a back shot of each of these girls. I think this is a fully posed one. Yep. Okay. Now, one thing I noticed, and I don't know if this is this was planned or anything like that, but I felt like her makeup was different at this show than typical in a good way. I actually really liked her makeup. I felt like she had a little bit more of a glam aspect to her with her makeup and her hair. She always tended to be a little bit more on the natural side when it came to the makeup and the hair and stuff like that. This was just a little like a touch more amplified, and I really liked it. I thought it was just enough. That really made her look pop. I was not a fan of the orange. Now, she was able to pull it off. And I can't get too mad about the orange suit on the Olympia stage because I actually have made an orange suit that ended up on the Olympia stage. So can't get too upset about that. I understand it. But I just feel like she would be looking a lot better if she went with a cooler toned suit with more depth of color to it. This top is a little bit too small still. I said that about her last one that she wore where she won her Olympia qualification. The top is just a little bit too small. She needs to be covering a little bit more of that chest. It's just a little bit precarious here. I'm not a fan of the suit. I would like to see a different color, and I understand she wants to do something a little different. I get it. You know, like I said, I had a client that wanted the same thing. I did it for her, so I understand all of it. I would just like to see her in like a deep jewel tone color, like a really like sapphire blue or something like that. I think would look really, really beautiful on her skin tone. So that's my 2 cents in that regard. Front pose is pretty much right where it needs to be. I wouldn't change a whole lot of anything about it. She's opened up enough to show good shape from top to bottom. And again, where she kind of falls flat a little bit because she's so conditioned is I feel like her shoulders could be like a little bit fuller here. And I think that's because her conditioning was just a touch too far, right? I think her conditioning was just a touch too far. If she could have gone just a little bit less and filled out a little bit more, I think her shoulders would have popped a little bit more. And it would just been a better look overall. Let's take a look at her back shot. Here we go. Make sure I get one where she's fully posed. I think she's fully posed here. Just go right here. So this is a pretty good back shot as far as the pose is concerned, right? Suit cut is great. Again, not a fan of the color. Suit cut is great though. But where I see the extra conditioning is right here in this hamstring drop, right? So this just needs to be a touch fuller so we don't see that kind of diamond cut right there. This little cut right here is what was taking some people from like the top 15 to like the top 20, right? She still was full enough and round enough in the glutes. She has good enough shape. She has good enough muscle and muscularity and things like that to get away with this. But I do believe that if she went just a hair softer here, she may have been able to move up a couple of placings. Now, the way everything else is falling though in this particular back pose, as far as her hair, her actual pose itself, everything like that, right spot on, exactly where it should be, all of that. So again, transitions, she needs to soften up her transitions a little bit. She was a little bit overboard with the transition sometimes. Like I was saying, she was a little bit, this was smoother than what I've seen in the past. This particular Olympia, I thought she did a much better job here actually with her posing. But what I mean by that is you can see a little bit of squishing here, right? So you need to calm down the transitions just a little bit so you don't see this kind of squish, right? So if she can do that, I think that, again, these little teeny tiny details like this, I think would take her from being 10th place up into like the top 6, top 5, that kind of thing. So these are just little tiny things. Fill out a little bit, calm down the posing just a little bit, and change the suit color. Those are my 3 things right there. The actual poses themselves are great. I wouldn't change a thing about the poses. It's just how she moves through them. And she is smoothing it out. So she's going in the right direction with all of that. So really good job there. Again, I know that she was really, really wanting to get into that top 10. So I'm sure she was ecstatic about that. Let me pull up our next 9th competitor, which is Daraja. And let me find her video first. So Daraja was our big wild card through this whole thing, right? So we weren't sure what she was going to look like because we felt like she hadn't nailed her conditioning at all this year. You know what I mean? So we were like, okay, is she going to actually show up? Is she going to be in shape? Is she going to be out of shape? Is it going to be enough to get her into the top call outs? Is it going to be not enough? All of that. I still think that Daraja did not nail her conditioning. She still looks really watery through that waistline. And when she gets into this back pose here, she still looks squishy in the glutes, right? I still don't think this was a good conditioning call for her. It was enough. It was enough to get her into that top 10. It was enough to get her into 9th place. But again, when you're coming off of placing 4th, 9th is a disappointment, right? She's got an incredible look. She's got incredible stage presence, But even here, I almost feel like she's pulled back a little bit and a little reserved in her stage presence because I think she knows that her conditioning is not 100%. I just, you can tell when somebody is on and when somebody is not. And I think she knew that she was not on, right? You can just see it. I don't know about you guys, but I know I could see it just in her overall presence on stage. Don't know why. Don't know why she can't nail that conditioning. Don't know what the issue has been this year. Maybe her body's just not responding how it used to. Maybe she needs to take a good long break. Not really sure. But, there's just little things that she needs to fix in order to get moved up in these call outs. You know what I mean? You can see really clearly here in this front pose, she's really washed out through that midsection, right? We don't see a lot of definition here in the shoulder or anything, no definition here in the legs. It's almost like she's just got this film over top of her. And we've seen this film over top of her all year long, right? We've seen this film over top of her all year long. I mean, even look at her hip right here. See the connector? It's squishing her waistline. You can see that little skin squish. If you've got squishy skin there, you've got inflammation, right? So something is going on. I don't know. Again, I don't know well enough internally what's going on with her as far as, trying to speculate or anything like that. But hopefully, she's going to get, if she hasn't already, she's getting some labs done and things like that to find out what's going on, because for her to not be able to get into condition all year long, there is something going on, right? Like she's been in prep and she tried to get on stage earlier in the year and things like that. And it didn't happen. So there's got to be something else going on, right? Now I know somebody just mentioned about the where she was. Where's the comment? I saw a comment about comparisons. Oh yeah, in the comparisons she was turned diagonally. Yeah, in her individual she posed fine. We're going to go into comparisons at the end. I'm going to show the comparisons and kind of show that too. She was posing a little odd in the comparisons. I agree. But yeah, I mean, you can just even just looking at this photo, you can see it in her face that she's just not really present. She's just not really present there. That it's just, I think she knows she's off. So it's unfortunate because I know everybody loves Daraja. Everybody wants to see her do well. Everybody was rooting for her to be able to come in and nail it. And it just didn't happen. So here's the back shot for you. And again, just looking here at the back shot, you can just see she's got a film over top of her. It's like just this film of inflammation over top of her. Her hair is too big. I know Karen said something about that, but yes, her hair is too big. It's covering her shoulders. It's covering her shape. She has an incredible V taper from the back and the hair is completely covering it. So that just, it just doesn't work, right? So it needs a little less on the hair. But that wouldn't have made a huge difference here. Really, again, it just goes back to her conditioning. I feel like we're missing a lot of pop on her upper glute. This is just not the best Daraja we've seen, right? She was much better last year. I feel like what I'm seeing here, probably with her shape, is a result of her trying to diet hard to get into the show. I don't know about her protocol and what they were doing as far as her diet and her training and stuff, so I can't really talk and speak to that. But to me, it looks like she's just a little deflated all the way around. Like I feel like her whole frame, her muscularity, everything is just a little bit deflated, right? So about the comment with touching her body too much, I agree. I'm not a fan of how she hits the one pose where she's touching underneath her glutes and touching the hamstring. I'm not a fan of that at all. Again, she gets away with it because she's very sweet and innocent and like girl next door look and all of that stuff. So she gets away with those kinds of things, but I just wouldn't do it if I was her. It's just a little much. We don't want to be touching. We don't want to be trying, I personally don't think she's trying to be over sexual with it, but it can come off that way. It can absolutely come off that way. It's a gray area. It's a fine line. And if something is gray, probably don't do it. Right. So I do agree with that as well. As far as putting Phoebe and Daraja, flip-flopping them, I could see that. I can understand that for sure. I felt like we're not going to really review Phoebe because she wasn't in the top 10, but I felt like she did improve quite a bit from Hurricane. So, I could have seen her move up for sure. But yeah, hopefully Daraja can figure out what's going on and why she can't get into the right conditioning, because that's really what's holding her back. That's really what's holding her back. We all know she's got an incredible shape. She's got incredible genetics, an incredible look overall, and she should be doing better than what she is, right? So yeah, her hair is beautiful, except it's just too much. It's just too much hair. So, and she did touch her chest too. The chest thing is okay. I understand that it's kind of like touching your heart, you know. But then you combine it with the touching of the glutes and the hamstrings, and it just becomes too much. It becomes overwhelming as far as too much touching. I agree. So let's move on to next, which is Ashlin. So Ashlin got herself back up into the top 10. I do have a video of her, so let me get her video up. Hang on, here we go. Okay. So I thought this was a great package for Ashlin, but I'm not a fan of her front pose. She was bent over. Her upper body was bent forward. I'm not sure why she was doing that. Her back pose is friggin' killer. And I think that her actual routine and everything like that is very, very smooth. She had one of the best back shots up on stage, period, except for the suit. And you can see it in this video. The suit doesn't sit on her glutes right. I'm not sure. I think this is the same suit that she wore in Texas, because it did the same thing. You see how it's bunching up in the back? I don't know why that is. If you can't she just needs to have a tighter suit. It's just too loose on her in the back. And I don't like, we've talked about this before, I don't like the molded top. I think it's too much chest up here, too much skin up here. And it makes her chest actually sit a little bit too low. She needs to pull everything up. Because she already has a shorter waistline, and this is just making it look a little bit shorter. Physique wise, I think this was great. I think she had a fantastic physique. Again, I think she had one of the best back shots up on stage, but her front shot is where she kind of missed the mark, right? Yeah, she was bent over in the front pose. So I'm not sure exactly what that was about. You know, I know for myself, I've had that problem a little bit as I've been practicing my current pose, because I'm trying to tilt my pelvis more. And it's just, you know, I've been doing that to try to get myself more flexible. And now I'm at the point where I am a little bit more flexible. So I don't bend like that anymore, but she's definitely tilted over, right? You can see her whole upper body is going this way. Her whole upper body is going this way, right? I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why. She just needs to stand up. She just needs to stand up tall. So that, and like I said, like the suit top, just the way that it sits on her just does not do her any justice. I'd like to see it pull, the whole thing just pulled up. I just like to see the whole thing pulled up, right? And then we'd be good to go. I don't know about finals. I'm not going to cover finals, just prejudging, because this is where really the judging takes place. So, you know, they go through confirmations and scoring at finals, but they don't really do any extra judging unless it's the top, you know, the top three, which we will get to the top three. But yeah, I mean, like I said, overall, I think this was a really, really good package for her. I would just like to see that suit change, and I would like to see this front pose change. Let's take a look at her back shot. So you can see it in these photos as far as the suit being an issue. Really some of the best glutes that were on the stage that day, but you see how the suit is just up. It's not touching her skin. It's not flush with her skin on both sides. So I'm not sure exactly why, but it's been like that for a few shows, right? Now, this particular shot, let me see if she's got a better one. She's getting into the pose here. So I think this is pretty much where she's fully posed. So there's a couple of things that I would change with this. A, like I said, the suit cut. And B, she's just squished up here at the top. I feel like she's pushing really, really hard in that lower body, which works for the lower body, but it doesn't work for the upper body, right? So I'd like to see her just relax and open this up a little bit more. Again, she's a very short, compact girl. So if she can open up her upper body a little bit more, that's going to make her waistline look smaller, right? So while her glutes are phenomenal here, it's her upper body she needs to open up. It's the same thing from the front. I'm not sure why she's having the upper body issue, because her lower body is freaking phenomenal. Her lower body should be in the top 5, right? Her lower body should be in the top 5. Upper body, the posing is a little bit wonky. So I'd like to see her open up and relax up top so we get more of a V taper into her waistline, into the back. And I think that would be spot on with her back pose, because I wouldn't change anything from the waist down other than the suit cut, not sitting on her flush. She has the potential to be in the top 5. She has the potential to be in the top 5. So I'd like to see that happen for her. If she can fix a couple little things. Conditioning was right on, all those kinds of things. You know what I mean? So I think it's just posing more than anything else for her. So, oops. Go to the next one. So the next one I did not get a video of because I was not expecting her to be in the top 15. I did not place her in my top 15, but she absolutely deserved it, and that's Ariana. I mentioned this on the Behind the Bikini. The reason why I did not place her in the top, 15, and she made it into the top 10, the reason I didn't place her there is because all of her shows this year, she had just come in a little bit too soft. She didn't look quite dense enough, all those kinds of things. She nailed her conditioning at this show. Absolutely nailed her conditioning at this show. She has a stunning look. I've said it before that, and we said this again on the Behind the Bikini, that we saw her being a top 10 Olympian maybe next year, but not this year. But she came in and just friggin' nailed that conditioning. Absolutely nailed it. And because of her shape and because of her frame and because of her look, she compares very, very, very well to Laura Lee. Very well to Laura Lee. So, she came in with the best look that she could have had. And so she definitely, again, is a stunning girl when she gets on stage. The first time I saw her was at Tampa, and I didn't know who she was, but immediately when she walked on stage, I was like, oh my God, who's that girl? Right? She just has that look, that supermodel, like it factor, right? So because she came into this show and she not only had that it factor, but she also nailed the conditioning, that's what brought her up into this top call out here, the top 10. When you look at that, when we go through and we look at the comparison shots, you're going to see just how well she actually compares to Laura Lee. She compares very, very well to Laura Lee. So front pose here is pretty much bang on. I really wouldn't change a whole lot. Maybe just relax the shoulder a little bit, but this could be a in-between transition kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think I would change much here. She is pushed a little bit forward on that front. There we go. She pulled back a little bit. So she was just a little bit off on her. She wasn't quite into her pose. So now I'd still like to see her kind of sit back a little bit more onto that back leg, just a touch. I feel like she's pushing a little too much into that front leg. But if she pushed back a little, I think that would be right on, because I think that would help to just kind of, I don't know, just put her in a better. I feel like she's an X right now. We've talked about this before. We're looking more for an S. And I think right now she looks very X-ish. So if she sat back a little bit more, that'd give her more S. So I just would like to see her push back a little bit in that front pose, but that's being very, very critical at this point. But she came into the show, and because she nailed her conditioning, she actually beat a bunch of girls like Ashlin and stuff like that beat her earlier in the year. You know what I mean? But her conditioning combined with her look got her into that top spot there. Now, when we look at her glutes, again, she's got phenomenal glutes. And I would say, because we're going to talk about Laura Lee in a minute, I would say that she actually has better glutes here than Laura Lee came in with. because she's not over the top. We'll talk about Laura Lee when we get there. But she's got these nice round bubbly glutes. She's got the tight tie-in, but not too tight. She's just tight enough and just full enough. Again, she got this. She nailed this. The reason why she, in my opinion, was out of my top 10 predictions before was because she was always just a little bit too soft here, and we didn't see this, right? We knew it was there. We knew she had it. She just didn't get there, right? She got there. In the biggest show in the world, she got there. Phenomenal way to plan that. I don't know if she planned that or not, but phenomenal way to plan that. And again, this back pose is pretty much spot on. I wouldn't change anything about it. This is what I was talking about with the difference between her and we were just talking about Ashlin, with Ashlin being pinched up top with her shoulders. Ariana is not. Ariana is open, right? Ariana is open in her back shot. So this is perfect with the upper body. We see that width going into her waistline and straight down to her feet. I wouldn't change a thing about this. Wouldn't change a thing about this back pose. Not one thing. So really good job. Again, she was not somebody that I was planning on seeing in that top 10 this year. I saw the potential for it, but hey, you know, kudos. And next up we have Amy, which I do have a video of Amy. So let me find the video for her. Where is she at? There she is. Okay. Okay, so Amy landed in the same spot she landed in last year. So not up, not down. I mean, you know, everybody wants to improve, but at the end of the day, when we're talking about the top 6 in the world, I mean, you can't really go wrong with that, right? I don't think there was anything particularly wrong with Amy at this show. I thought she did a pretty phenomenal job in general. There's a few things I'd like to see her work on. I think her walk to the back is a little bit choppy. I'd like to see her kind of smooth that out a little. I saw her post where they told her one real quick thing while we're looking at the video. They gave her feedback. Watch her. She walks to the back. She's got some striations that hit in her glutes when she does her walk. Just watch for a second. You can probably see it on the video there. They told her that she was a little bit too conditioned. There's a little bit of striating, just a touch right there. They told her that her conditioning was a little bit over the top and that they didn't like her front pose where she was twisted really sideways, which I agree with both things. Her front pose from like New York and Pittsburgh and stuff like that was much better. I'm not sure exactly why she was posing like this. I thought she got critiqued saying that she needed to pose more sideways, more of that S frame that we talked about before. But she mentioned in her post that she was tweaking it herself. So I don't know. Either way, they like her front pose better from like Pittsburgh and New York when she was doing those shows, which I would agree with. Let's see. There we go. So yeah, so that's really the only thing that I would particularly change here with her is I would come a little bit more straight on like she used to pose and not do this really super sideways pose. But I think she came in just a touch too conditioned here. This is like, you can actually see it in comparison to what she looked like from Legions. I think Legions, she was a little bit soft. Here, she's a little bit hard. She just needs to find that middle ground right there. But again, we're talking about the top 6 in the world. So this is little teeny tiny minutia kind of things. But what we're looking at again is just like, it's mostly from the back is where we're seeing the little bit of over-conditioned aspect. But we see a little bit of that hardness here through the waistline, right? Hard about the only thing that we see in this, right? Everybody's gonna be a little bit different when it comes to what's gonna soften them up. Some people it's carbs, some people it's not. It's just everybody's body's a little different. That's why you got to test this stuff and compete more, and just kind of understand your own body, that kind of thing, so you can manipulate it a little bit better. Back pose. Again, I wouldn't change anything here other than like they told her she was just a touch over the line. And again, that's coming from right here. This little diamond right here. She has those really long drops in her hamstrings, which means she can come in a little bit softer and she's still good, right? But when you come in a little bit too hard, you see that diamond, you see that really, that hard cut, and it's just a little bit too much, right? So other than that, though, again, I wouldn't change a whole lot here. I think her suit bottoms are sitting a little too high. I would probably pull them down a little bit. I'm seeing a little bit of shallowness up here at the top of the glute, and that really can just be covered by the suit bottoms if she pulls them down a touch. But the back pose itself, I wouldn't change. I wouldn't change the hair. Well, no, I wouldn't. No, I was gonna say I might trim a little bit of the hair off, but that's really, again, lack of a better term, that's splitting hairs. I don't think that that's really necessary. I think she just needs to be a teeny tiny bit softer, and maybe fix the positioning of that suit cut there. But that's it. I mean, again, we're talking the top 6 in the world. These are little minutia kind of things, right? But yeah, as far as her posing, I would definitely work on the walk to the back for sure. I think that her poses themselves and how she transitions through her routine is great. But I would just work on the walk to the back as far as smoothing that out a little bit. Now we are up into our top 5, which we kind of knew a little bit. Now, Issa, which I do have a video of her. Let me find her video. Here she is. Issa actually looked a lot better than what I was expecting. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Like, I wasn't expecting a lot out of her. And she looked really, really good for her. She looked really, really good for her. Again, she's got one of the smallest waistlines in the IFBB, period. I'd still like to see more shoulders on her to match her glutes. I'd like to see a little bit more development through her glute hamstring tie-in, just so that she has a little bit more pop there, a little bit more density there. But this was a massively improved Issa. Hair, I thought was pretty, but there was just something about the style itself from the front that I wasn't a fan of. I think it was just too much off of her, like too whoosh off her face. Like, I'd like to see maybe a part here. Like, it looks like there's no part. Does that make sense? It wasn't like it was ugly or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, but it's just a little bit off. Maybe she needs a little bit of volume on the side or something. I don't know. Just something, just a little something there in the hair. But overall, I thought this was a very, very good package. But there's a couple of things I would change. In the photos, it doesn't look like it. In the photos, it looks like this suit pops off of her really nicely. I felt like it could use a little bit more depth of color. In person, I felt like it was kind of muted on stage. And I think it was just because she has some lighter stones on the fabric. If you look at the fabric, like it's a purple suit, but she's got some lighter pink stones on there. And I think that kind of made it blend a little. I don't think this is a fully posed pose. I think that's better. Yeah. There we go. But you see what I mean about her hair? It's almost like it's like whooshed back, right? I don't know. I don't know, something. I thought her top was okay. I was a little bit more concerned about Jordan's top than Issa's. I think Issa's top was okay, but I could see what you're talking about with the top. Waistline is nice and tight. She was not over conditioned. Yeah, I agree. She was the most improved. Absolutely the most improved. But yeah, like everything just kind of blended. Like, again, it looks like the color pops off of her here in this photo, but in real life, it didn't feel like that. And her hair just blended with her skin tone a little bit, that kind of thing. So there's just little things that I would have popped on her a little bit more, maybe do some darker low lights in there or something. I know, you don't have to go completely dark with your hair, but just some things to it pops off a little bit more. A lot of this just looked very neutral, right? Again, this was the best look that I've seen from Issa in a very, very long time. I would say for her, she just needs to take some time off to kind of balance her physique back out a little bit, right? This is an improvement from last year. She moved up in her placing, which is great. All of those things. This probably couldn't have gone any better for her. I assumed she would be in the top 10, but I didn't know she was going to be as high as 5th place. So, this was definitely exceeded my expectations. From the front, again, I felt like she looked really, really good. I'd like to see more delt pop from her. She's got an insane waist ratio here, insane. But I just like to see a fuller delt, right? I just like to see a fuller delt. Yeah, there's a few times where the suit, I could say, gets a little bit risque. I agree with you. But maybe because the suit was so neutral as far as like it all blended together, maybe that's why I didn't really pay attention to the nipplage. But yeah, I would do something different. Maybe just something that pops a little bit more. I just felt like everything blended a little bit too much. Let's find a back shot here. And her extensions in the back look a little bit messy. They look a little bit messy. So maybe just blend that a little bit better. Oh, we haven't hit a back shot yet. Let me see. There's a back shot. Okay. She's got a little bit of an imbalance in the glutes, that kind of thing. She needs to get some more upper outer glute pop, that kind of deal. I don't know if she's fully posed there. That was a good one. Here's a good one where she's fully posed. Just a little bit more like upper outer, really, to get that to pop a little bit more. When I was seeing preview shots of her going into the show, I thought she was going to be a little bit leg heavy, and she wasn't. She wasn't leg heavy at all. But there's just some little things that she could do to help to get a little bit more density in those glutes. I think she just needs to take an off season, really. I think she needs to take an off season and get that pop to those glutes, that density to those glutes. It's close. But again, this is the best that I've seen her look in a very long time. I think she beat Amy in general because I feel like her lines are they flowed a little bit better. Her overall presence was a little bit better. But again, it's like between her and Amy, it's like splitting hairs. All of these girls, if they flip-flop in placings, I wouldn't have said that was weird. Like, I think that it was good. You know what I mean? So I think they both did. I think they both looked phenomenal. I don't know. I could put them either way. So there's just little things, just little things that each of them needs to improve. And it's not necessarily that they have to improve in order to beat each other. They just need to improve themselves. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's just the way that the scoring falls, really. Sometimes it's just the way the scoring falls. But yeah, she was definitely somebody mentioned she was the most improved. I would agree with that. Absolutely. So next we have Laura Lee, which was, as we know, the shock of the show, right? I do have video of her. Everybody's talking about Laura Lee. Because everybody thought she was going to be in the hunt for the win, myself included. I thought she was going to be 1 or 2. I didn't think she was going to be any lower than 2. But she came in, there's different people are saying different things, 5-6 pounds heavier than the Arnold. And her posing was different. I didn't have a problem with it because I feel like Laura Lee can pull it off. I think if somebody else tried to do it, I think it wouldn't have looked as good. But Laura Lee can pull that off, that transition and everything like that. She missed the mark on the glutes and the legs. She was just too big, not conditioned enough. And this is more like an influencer look than a bikini look, right? She's shaking as she walks, and that's just because she's not in condition. It's just because she's not quite there. It's like she's got a film of water over top of her. Kind of the same thing we were talking about with Daraja. She has just a little bit of a film of water, but she's also just more muscular too. Her legs are too big and her glutes are too big. So I mentioned this on Behind the Bikini that she kind of had the same glute look that she had when she won Chicago Pro. She can get away with it at the smaller shows. You can't get away with it here at the Olympia. Not sure exactly why she decided to do this as far as her look is concerned. I don't know. When people tell you not to change something, you shouldn't change. And yes, I agree. Her, like I mentioned this also on the behind the bikini, that I felt like her shoulders were down. So the fact that her shoulders were down and her lower body was up made her unbalanced, right? And yes, she was the biggest girl on stage. She definitely was. She was the most muscular, and she was one of the softest too. She was one of the softest. So, you know, she can get away with it because she's Laura Lee and she looks phenomenal regardless. But you know, it's unfortunate because I feel like she's this girl that she could win the Olympia any given day. But for some reason, she just decides to do something different every one of these big shows, and this is what happens, right? You know, her waistline's tight and everything like that. She never looks like she's out of shape ever, because she's just built really well. You know what I mean? But she's got a film of water on her legs. She's got a film of water on her glutes, you know, and on top of that, she's more muscular. So the front pose itself, again, she's pushing a little bit into it, creating that X versus the S. This is not her typical front pose. Her typical front pose is more of an S curve. And I'm wondering if she did this to try to minimize the glutes a little bit, because that's what it looks like to me. It looks like she's trying to make her upper body look a little bit bigger. But it doesn't really help when you got the added mass, right? So, again, beautiful color, beautiful suit, beautiful face, beautiful hair, beautiful everything, beautiful, gorgeous, right? That's why she can get away with this stuff, because she's freaking gorgeous. But she's just too big. She's just too big. Let's find a back shot where she's posed. I mean, it's impressive. Don't get me wrong. It's impressive that she's able to look like this. It's just not the criteria, right? To me, also, like I said, like this looks like she's inflamed, right? This looks inflamed. It's the same kind of thing I was talking about with Daraja. It looks like she's got a layer of inflammation over top of her. So it's not only the fact that she grew in muscularity, but she's also got a layer of inflammation over top. You know, somebody mentioned this in a comment at one point where they saw like sock lines, and you can actually see that there's lines here from whether it was her warm-up she was wearing before this, or socks or something. There's actually lines on her from whatever she was wearing before. So that tells me she's got a layer of water, right? She's got a layer of water, right? So I don't know what her plans are from here. If she had come in with the look that she had at the Arnold, I think we would be talking about her as the winner. I do. I think she would have won this show had she looked how she looked at the Arnold. So I don't know what else to say to that. So yeah, she's got to figure out what she wants to do. It's unfortunate. Next up, we have Ashley in third. So I do have video of Ashley. Whoops, what did I do? Let's see, where's my video? And of course, my phone started freaking out when she stepped on stage. So thank God Kelby was next to me and she got video for me. Okay. It's not as close as the other ones, but I do have video. Okay, so here's Ashley. Loved the green on her. Tan was perfect. Hair and makeup was great as well. Posing was a lot better. I felt like she posed a little bit off in her back pose. She was a little bit wide in her back pose sometimes. I thought her front pose was a little bit too frontwards a few times. But as far as her movement and her flow, I feel like her flow was a lot better. Like usually when she goes through her transitions and things like that, it's very like wonky and like choppy, things like that. But she was a lot more fluid at this particular show, a lot more fluid. She's getting a lot better with that. So I definitely want to give her some props for that. Here's the front pose. Here's the front pose. Well, her eyes are closed. Well, I was trying to find one with her eyes open, but I still don't feel like she's fully posed in this position. Hold on. Let me see if I can find a good front pose. This one's better. Yeah, this one's better. There we go. Okay. Okay, so I feel like her waistline is on too straight to the judges, right? If she'd twisted a little bit more, I think she would have gotten a better glute pop from the front. And I feel like her shoulders would have filled out a little bit more. So I'm not really sure why she was this straight on, other than I know sometimes her feedback is that she has a little bit of lower ab extension. So maybe she went a little bit more frontwards so that she wouldn't show any ab distension. That's my thought. I think maybe she posed like this so that she couldn't get the critique of her abs being distended, because I know even Tyler mentioned this at one point, that she does a little bit too much of a vacuum in her front pose. So my thought process is, I think the reason why she posed like this was to control her midsection. I think she did this so that she wouldn't have to vacuum in, because she's gotten critiques about that, and she wouldn't show lower ab pooch at the same time. So that's why I think she posed like this. I would like to see her be able to control the midsection and twist the glutes around towards me. I feel like that would be a much better look, but maybe she's not able to do both, so she chose to do this. If she's constantly getting the feedback that, you know, she's got the lower ab distension, or she's got the suck in from the vacuum, then I understand why she would want to pose like this in order to remove that as a piece of her critique, right? Green suit is great. I think this is a great green. I think that this looks phenomenal from the front. Not the same from the back, but I think it's phenomenal from the front. The only thing that I would say, like I said, she just needs to find that happy medium and that balance on this front pose. I'd like to see her be able to do both. Because I think when she comes too straight on like this, then we lose the glute pop and we lose the shoulder here. But I really liked it. She went a little bit more with the glam here, which I really like. A lot of the girls did at this particular show. They did a little bit more with their glam, right? And I think that she did a little bit more with her glam. She did a little bit more with the hair, a little bit more with the makeup, and I think it worked. I think it was good. I think that was a good move. Let's find a back shot. So here, I felt like she was a little wide in her stance, and this suit back was up on her lower back. I don't know why she has it sitting up that high. The cut itself, we've talked about this cut several times. She's really the only one that can pull this particular T cut off, this T back off. But even here, I don't think she did. I think that she pulled it up way too high. It's like it's literally on her lower back. And it just, we see the shallowness of her glutes up here, right? It needs to come down. It needs to come down, because it's just making her glutes look shallow on the top. So I don't know what that situation was all about right there, right? I don't think it flattered her. I think that her glutes actually looked a little bit flat because of the way that those suit bottoms sat on her. So there's two things I would have changed about this back pose. A, I would have put on different suit bottoms, different cut. This T back, even on her in this particular situation, does not work. And B, I would have brought her feet closer together. Her feet are too wide. So I think the feet further out actually makes her glutes a little bit flatter too. You know, when I look at this, I see legs first, not glutes first. And typically with Ashley, I look at Ashley and I see glutes. You know what I mean? She may have done this on purpose because, you know, they're thinking these girls are coming in bigger. And she's going to have to stand next to Amy. And she's going to have to stand next to Laura Lee, who do have bigger legs and things like that. So she may be doing this on purpose, thinking that that's what she needed to do in order to beat them. But I think that she just needs to pose to what her physique looks best. That's my 2 cents. And I would have brought the feet together a little bit, and I would have done a different suit cut. So, yeah, I've been very vocal about this particular suit cut. I don't think it looks good on anybody. Ashley has been able to pull it off, but even here, I don't think it's the best cut for her. And Ashley's really the only one that I've said that's been able to pull it off. She's the only one. So I'm not a fan of the cut at all. But in general, like I said, I think that it was a very good package for her. I think she may have done some posing things to try to minimize her critiques that she's gotten in the past, which I think is good. And I think she might have also done some posing things to try to beat some of her competition, which, you know, I can sit here and say I would rather see her feet closer together because I think that would look best on her. But it did help her beat everybody that was below her. So, I mean, maybe it was the right call that she posed like that, right? So my 2 cents, you know, I think that third was the best she was going to do anyway. So I think she probably made the right call on a lot of these things, right? She played the game right. So Maureen was in second, and we talked about this. I had Maureen winning, but I understand why she's in second, and I understand why Jennifer won. I get it. I have video of Maureen, so I'm trying to pull it up. Hang on. Okay. Okay, so here's Maureen. She has a very sexy look on stage. Her walk is phenomenal. I thought this was a really, really well-polished package for her. I felt like she was conditioned well. I felt like she fixed her midsection. I felt like her glutes were just right with the conditioning. She has the best back shot in the show, hands down. Best walk, all of those kinds of things. But the details that people were mentioning as far as what she could have done better, her tan being a little bit too dark, I can understand that. It kind of blurred some of the detail. Her shoes being a little bit too tall on the platform, I can understand that. They were distracting. I saw that from the audience. They were distracting being that tall. Don't get those big platforms. I felt like she did that to try to look a little bit longer and taller like the other girls. That kind of thing didn't work. But the rest of it I thought was great. So when it comes to between her and Jennifer, right? Jennifer, I thought won from the front, and Maureen, I thought won from the back, right? So the reason why I had Maureen winning is, again, because she fixed the things that were her critiques from last year, right? So beautiful look. I love the red on her. I understand what they're saying as far as the tan being too dark, kind of blurring some of her lines. I get that. But her rib cage isn't poking out anymore. You know, all of those kinds of things. So I think this is a really good front pose. But I think she also could have probably tilted into it a little bit more. She's another one that's similar to Ashlin, where she's so short. She's got to maximize her frame as much as she can. So maybe twist a little bit more in the waistline and push up a little bit more in that glute. Maybe that would have popped her waistline a little bit better, that kind of thing. But it's hard for her from the front to beat Jennifer from the front because Jennifer is just so well put together from the front. Her waistline is just so small from the front. So I don't necessarily think that Maureen could have done anything differently here with her pose to make her like stand out. But you know, maybe the tan was what kind of blurred her a little bit, that kind of deal. And yeah, get rid of the shoes. I also thought that this connector in the center was a little bit too long. I would like to see her pull the suit top together a little bit. I did notice that even when she was posing, I felt like we saw a lot of chest here. So there's that. And normally I'm not a huge fan of the red lip with the suit, but I felt like she pulled it off okay. And I think the reason why she pulled it off okay is because, you know, she was so dark, right? Before I move on, I'm going to X out of Instagram because my battery is going to die on my phone and I don't want to lose this whole live like I did the last time. So I'm going to X out of the live on my phone real quick on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, going over to YouTube or Facebook, I'm going to go ahead and share this. I learned from my mistakes. There we go. Okay. So let's move to her back pose. All right, here we go. Now, she has the best back pose on the stage, I think, other than the one thing I would change. The one thing I would change in her back pose is she's pushing too hard right here, right? She's just pushing too hard. And I would like to see her open up, just like I talked about with Ashlin. Same thing. So same thing. I just like to see her open up here and just relax up top a little bit. But from here down, best glutes on the stage. Best glutes on the stage. So again, I had her winning from the back and I had Jennifer from the front. Typically, when we're talking about bikini, you win it from the back. So that's why I had Maureen winning right there. That's why. So I wouldn't have changed a whole lot here with Maureen other than, like I said, maybe go a little bit lighter on the tan, maybe go a little bit lower on the shoes. That's about it. That's about it. So it was really, really close as far as these two are concerned. Let's take a look at Jennifer, who is our winner. Where is her video? Here it is. Okay. So again, Jennifer is like, her waistline's like this, you know, which makes it very, very hard to beat. I've always thought she was a little bit imbalanced with her shoulders up top, but she fixed that from the front. From the back, the imbalance is very noticeable. You know, some people have said it's not that, it's noticeable. The imbalance from the glutes is noticeable. Even she has addressed it herself. The back pose imbalance is why I had her in second. Stage presence, all that stuff. Again, her and Maureen were like this when it comes to that. The green suit, if it was a little bit darker green, I would have been on board with it a little bit more. I still think that purple is her look. I still like purple better. She's done green in the past, and when she first started competing, green was her thing. This green to me was just a little bit too light. If it was a green like Ashley's, I think it would have been perfect. But it's just, to me, it was just a little bit too light. So let's look at a front pose. It's not a fully posed front pose. Hold on. I'm going to find a fully posed. I want to show you guys fully posed, not in between here, because she's got a bunch of in-betweens. I think this is a good one. Yeah, there's a good one. Okay, front pose. I mean, her waistline's ridiculous, right? Conditioning. She's a little bit soft through the legs, but for her, it works, right? She was a little bit too hard last year, so she came in a little bit softer this year. She did what she was supposed to do, right? And with that, because of the way she's posing and because of her shoulders being a little bit broader and a little bit bigger this year, it helps to balance her. I'd still like to see her a little bit tighter, just a touch tighter through this quad, right? She's just a little bit thicker through here. But like I said, she's balanced. She's balanced, so it works. I think her, again, her overall presence on stage was very captivating. You wanted to look at her. She had the confidence. She was there. She had that it factor. That's what we wanted. That helped her immensely here, right? Both her and Maureen both had that going on. Both of them did. So overall, I thought this was a really stunning look on her. But again, this front shot with this waistline is really, really difficult to beat. So I get it. Again, I get it why she won the title here. But let's take a look at the back pose. And here, again, this is why I had her in second. It's because of the imbalance, right? So her left glute is noticeably smaller than her right, and it's sunk down in comparison to her right. And this camera angle is a little bit off to the right side. My video, I was off to the left. And you can still see, being off to the left, that the left glute is smaller than the right. So it's not the camera angle, it's the actual, it's her actual frame. So conditioning wise, right on. Conditioning wise is right on. Suit looks great as far as the positioning and everything like that's concerned. I'd still like to see her, same thing as I said with Ashley, I'd like to see her feet a little bit closer. I'd like to see her upper body a little bit more relaxed. She's pinched, right? She's pinched back. I'm not sure why all of these girls are pinching like this. Maybe they were giving critiques to do the pinch. I'm not really sure because a lot of them are doing it. So maybe that's something they were told to do. I just don't like it personally. I just like to see them relax. So relaxing up top. And I still think she needs more upper outer glute. I think in order for her to be comparable with Maureen's back shot, she needs the upper outer glute here. Again, for Jennifer, I think this is one of her best looks. I think this is one of the best looks she's put on stage, period. Her hair is a bit longer here, which I think was a good move as well. It covers up her back a little bit. So we can see her delts, but we're not seeing, back. So overall, I think this is a very solid pose, but there are a lot of things here I would change. Like I said, I would bring those feet together. Just got to fix that imbalance back there. And I would relax those arms down and not pinch them. I think she's, like I said, I'm behind the bikini too. I think she's a phenomenal ambassador of the sport. And I know that doesn't necessarily go into them choosing that day on stage, but it does matter in the long run because it does help us. It helps our division and things like that. If you have a good ambassador that's leading the way, that kind of thing. I do think she has one of these looks that people can look at her and say she's attainable. That's always been my concern when it comes to, a Laura Lee winning or something like that, because Laura Lee's look is so genetically gifted that girls look at that and say, I couldn't look like that. You know what I mean? Girls can look at Jennifer and say, I can look like that. I can make my body look like this. I can do this, and that's important. I think that's very important when it comes to this particular division. So I think it was a great choice as far as the actual winner of the division and everything like that. But I think it was very, very close in those top three. I think it was very close in the top three. To finish out, I do want to show some of the comparison shots, just so you guys can see it. I think this is the top. Yep, here we go. Okay, so here is your bottom half of the top 10. I think everybody's posed. No? Oh, because they're moving Jordan. So Jordan's moving, but then Daraja is moving here. Okay. So you can see here the differences in the shapes. We were talking about, somebody mentioned Daraja and how she was posing diagonally. She is, I'm not sure exactly why. She was covering up her glute the whole time. You can see pretty clearly here that, I think that Issa and Laura Lee kind of compared well from the front together. Ashlin is standing up taller here in the comparison shots than what she was when she was in her individual. Ariana looks still like she has a little bit of a thicker waistline here in comparison to like a Issa, Laura Lee, or an Amy. She's just a little bit thicker, but she's still very comparable. Let's move through these a little bit. Jordan's waistline is teeny tiny, but you can see here too, her upper body is probably the smallest of all the girls up here on the top here. And again, I think she just came down a little bit too much in her conditioning. If she'd filled that out a little bit, that would have helped. Let's keep moving. Get them into a back shot while they're walking now. Now something I want you to notice here is the squishing in the glutes. I don't know if you can see this on your screen or not, but Laura Lee is definitely squishing in her glutes here, and so is Daraja, right? We're seeing some squish. Now Ariana a little bit, but she doesn't. It's not really a squish with Ariana. It's more like her conditioning is fine. She just needs to push the glutes up a little higher so that they don't have that little indent. But it's not a squish. The squish is coming from Daraja and from Laura Lee, which we said with both of them, they both had a layer of inflammation there. Little bit from Issa here too. Issa needs more density. So you can see that here. She's got a little bit of a squish here, so she needs that density in the glutes so she doesn't squish. Okay, so looking at the shot here, it's really clear that Laura Lee is the biggest girl on the stage as far as those glutes are concerned. Yeah, and I would say that probably the best back shot here is Ashlin. Ashlin's back shot is the best. You can see here also Daraja's hair is too big. We can't see her shoulders. Yeah. Come back to the front. This is before they moved him, I think. Yeah, this is before they moved him around. You see, even in this shot, we've got Daraja over here really relaxed and covering her glute up. So I'm not really sure why she was doing that. And then back shot here again. So back shot, we can see clearly, like I said, that Laura Lee is the biggest one here. But you see what I was talking about with Ariana and her glutes being very comparable with the shape of Laura Lee. Like Laura Lee and Ariana are very, very similar from the back as far as shape is concerned. And I actually think that Ariana's glutes from the back look better here at this particular show than Laura Lee's. They look really, really similar. You guys see that? You see how their structure is very, very similar? The shape of their glutes, the shape of their legs, their shoulders, everything very similar. And it's like, I think Ariana, maybe it looks like she's an inch shorter than Laura Lee or something like that. Ariana is like the better version of Laura Lee in this particular lineup. You know, if Laura Lee had come in a couple of pounds tighter, she would have looked like Ariana. All right, so that's your bottom half of the top 10. Let's get to our top 3. Okay. All right, here's your top 3. So again, well, Ashley's not posed here. Let me see if I can find a full pose. All right, so let's go with the back shot. So I thought this was interesting too, like as we were going through the comparisons and everything here as well, because Ashley's a little bit tilted too. So Ashley's tilted off to the left a little bit, and that's again because her front pose is to the left. So you got to be careful about this. If you look at this shot right here, both Jennifer and Ashley are a little bit tilted, whereas Maureen is bang straight on, right? I'm going to give them a front pose here. Okay, so all 3 of them are in their front pose here, fully posed. And I mean, it's pretty clear that Jennifer is winning this front pose, right? So, and then Maureen second in the front pose and Ashley in third. So I again, going back to what I was saying before, I had Maureen from the back, Jennifer from the front. So, you know, it makes sense as how it's kind of played out here. Any questions, you guys? Any questions that you guys have? And see what I mean about the suit color? Like I would have liked to see Jennifer's suit color be more of an emerald. We already talked about Daraja a long time ago. If you want to get our thoughts, go back and watch it when this goes back up on the replay. Any other questions that you guys have? I'll leave it open for another minute or so, a couple minutes. I gotta go eat. I'm hungry. I got one more meal. Any questions, you guys? Any questions on anything that we went over? So again, going back to, everything that I'm talking about as far as these critiques and things like that is minutia of minutia things, right? Every one of these girls that we talked about in any other pro show would have won the show hands down, right? Would have won the show hands down. What I mean by T, it looks like a T. It looks like a T. That's what I mean by T-back. It looks like a T. So most suits kind of curve in or V down. Most suits V down or they have a curve. Hers goes straight across and down. Looks like a T. Oh, my lip gloss. Oh, I don't even know. It's lip service. I glaze lips from. Can you guys see that? That's what it is. I do the BoxyCharm. So this is one of the things with the BoxyCharm. Yeah. Any other questions? Not lip gloss questions? In general, I felt like the entire thing was judged really, really well. I do. I think the whole thing was judged very, very well. But you're welcome. But yeah, I sitting there in the audience, I could see what the thought process was from the judging panel, right? You could tell who was going where and where the call outs were, why people were in certain call outs and why they were, moved the way they moved, all the way down through till the last call out. They walked them back and forth. They compared them back and forth. So even if the girls got a placing of 16, they were still judged. Every single call out was judged. They moved girls in every single call out. They walked girls in every single call out. So they really did judge them. It wasn't just okay, now everybody else. It wasn't like that at all. And I would say the most competitive girls were in the top 3 call outs. And then like the 4th call out, they were still really competitive, but maybe they were a little bit too conditioned. Like that's where Yulia landed. Actually, I have a video of Yulia. I can pull that up while we're talking. And waiting for any other questions that come in. Yeah, Yulia was in the 4th call out. And she was just a little bit over conditioned. And that was pretty much everybody that was in that 4th call out. And then the 5th call out, there were girls that were, a little bit too soft. There were girls that missed the mark on some of their presentation stuff. There were girls that missed the mark on their shape, things like that. And it just kind of kept going down from there. And that's typically what you'll see at most of these shows. You know what I mean? Like the girls that are in shape or even a little bit too conditioned are still going to get a good look. But then you're going to start, as you start going down the line, you're seeing girls that are a little out of shape, that kind of thing. So there were a lot of girls that could have been in the top 10. Every girl that was in the top 20 could have been in the top 10. So, they really could have. Any other day could have moved up, right? The top, like I said, the top 20, which is really like your top 3 call outs, were your most competitive call outs. They were your most competitive call outs. And those were girls where if any of them had been swapped, I don't think anybody would have said boo. That 3rd call out had, Evie, it had Jessica Wilson, it had Jordan Brannon, it had who else? Romina was at the end of the 3rd call out, I think. 3rd call out? She 3rd call out? Yeah, Romina might have been at the end of the 2nd call out. She was just outside the top 10. Eureka could have moved up. She was in that 3rd call out. All those kinds of things. Any of those girls, any other day, if they were just a little bit softer or a little bit harder or a little bit this or just a touch this, touch that, touch whatever, they could have absolutely moved up 100% any other day. So, all right, guys. Well, we've been on here for a long time tonight. This was a long one. So I hope you all enjoyed it. And go back and watch it again. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, all of those kinds of things. And then we will go from here. So I will definitely do at least one more YouTube video this week. I don't know if I'm going to go live. I've got a lot of stuff going on this week, and then I leave for Hawaii myself next week. So I don't think I'll be able to do a live, but I'll try to get at least one more YouTube video out. I got a lot of coverage, video coverage from the Olympia. Maybe I'll put together a little vlog or something like that for you guys. So with that, if you want to come work with me with posing or suits or hair and makeup or anything like that, that's where you can go. The Cutie Boutique right there, that QR code. The links are also in the description box below here on YouTube. And I'd be happy to help you out with all those kinds of things. I know, I can't believe it's been an hour and 20 minutes. This actually flew by pretty quickly. So I'm surprised myself. So I hope you guys have a fantastic evening. I'm going to go eat my last meal and relax and try to get some sleep because, you know, your girl is like 11 days out at this point. So I hope you have a fantastic evening, and I'll tell you guys what I'm putting out, what else I'm putting out this week. Probably put out something having to do with wellness and stuff like that too. We'll get some more stuff out for you guys this week. So have a great night, you guys, and we will talk very, very soon. And yeah.